bitch, you a bird, you thought, you learn, you see, I earn, you stop. A word, I shoot, no rim, I'm high, you burn, I'm me, that's him, you nah, that's word.
I can still make it scream, baby. Woo!
All right, guys. So today I'm joined here as part of our UFC 297 main card breakdown. We're going to have Sam Alvey on here, the Karate Combat Heavyweight Champion, somebody who's quite familiar with Sean Strickland, perhaps on a personal level, definitely as far as in the octagon, somebody who's shared some time with him in sparring, training, albeit in the gym, but nonetheless, someone who's quite familiar with him. Sam, thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for helping me sort of break down this main event here.
Absolutely. You and I, we're going to make your fans millions of dollars betting on this fight.
There we go, man. Let's do it. So Extreme Couture, it's a place where you guys trained, right? Obviously, I know he's helped you out for the past camp for your heavyweight championship bout of Karate Combat, right? That's where you guys do like the primary amount of your training, right? That's usually where you see Sean at.
Well, yes and no. So most of the training I've ever done with him was at Team Quest out in California with Dan Henderson.
Okay.
Years ago, he went his own way. I stuck around Team Quest, and we've always bounced around. We've just found places to train. This last camp, I did most of my camp in Tennessee. Went out to Team Quest for about 3 days. Went out to Extreme Couture for about 3 days.
Gotcha.
The last part, those last 3 days where I got to spar with Sean again.
Okay. And have you guys been, in the gym at all during his camp? Like, have you seen him? Have you seen what he's been up to?
I keep close tabs on him, but it was really those 3 days of this camp that I was the most aware of everything he was doing. Just because we live in different areas.
Right. No, absolutely.
I've known him for years. So I have been predicting him to be the champion for a long time now.
As someone who's seen him, outside of, the cameras and all that, can you confirm that he is the same guy, behind the camera as he is in front of the camera?
Yeah, he is exactly the same person. The same conversation, same phrasings, same everythings.
Absolutely. So let's get into this fight, man. Obviously, we don't want to waste time here. We are here to get you for this, sort of an evaluation of this main event.
Yeah.
And again, we do appreciate the time. So I want to start out by saying, as someone who you sparred with him, right, in training, there's pictures, you've spoken about it, right? Sean is a notoriously hard guy to hit, right? What do you think makes him so hard to hit from what you've seen being in there with him?
Hey, listen, in MMA, nobody jabs. I mean, the list of people that jabs, like GSP and Sean, jabbing stops everything. It is the most effective strike that nobody uses. Jabbing beats Muay Thai, jabbing beats wrestling, jabbing beats everything. His jab beats everything. I can throw whatever I want. His jab will beat me there.
So it's kind of the neutralizer to anything you're going to do.
Hey, yeah. I mean, he beat Israel Adesanya, the world's greatest striker, with nothing more than a jab cross. I mean, that is what he threw for 5 rounds. And I don't know that he missed.
A lot of times you get some fights where going into it, you could almost see how it's going to play out, right? But, at least in my eyes, this fight, UFC 297 between, again, Sean Strickland, Dricus Du Plessis, it's about as 50-50 of a fight as you can get, at least in my eyes. Again, it's a toss-up, right? I mean, I believe Sean Strickland is the -150 favorite, Du Plessis +125. So very close odds. But just in a general sense, what do you make of the matchup? Just in an overall sense, looking at it.
I think Sean isn't getting enough love on this one. If you made a list of everything that Du Plessis is better at than Sean, you would have power punches. That's the whole list. He is not better anywhere else. His wrestling is not as good. His jiu-jitsu, I've heard his jiu-jitsu is bad, but I don't know that. We don't see him do much jiu-jitsu. His combinations are slow, but he hits hard. But the key factor to everything is his cardio. His cardio is not ready for Sean. I predicted the Stylebender fight like to a T. I said everything that was going to happen, and Sean made it come true. I truly think if DDP does not land that knockout shot in round 1, he will be TKO'd in the end of round 4 or early round 5. I could see Sean getting a finish here just because DDP and I fight very similarly. We have a very similar style. And when Sean and I spar, I win the first 2 rounds and he wins the next 3.
Dricus Du Plessis, obviously, he had a lot of people say that the nose surgery that he had really, improved his cardio. Already came out in the Whittaker fight, sort of guns blazing, right? But I do think that, well, I know that we haven't seen him go the full distance. He's been to a decision one time in his pro career. Sean Strickland's been to 16 decisions in his pro career. So Sean is very much used to, you know, getting there and hearing those scorecards at the end of the fight. But if that is a thing, if Dricus actually can't withstand, you know, the cardio and actually can't go 25 minutes, then there's no doubt Sean's going to weaponize that, right?
Yeah, he absolutely will. I mean, people don't, I mean, when I say cardio, people think of running marathons. It's not what cardio is. People aren't ready for what Sean brings to the table. Think of a marathon where somebody's actively trying to hold you back. Right. That is what fighting Sean Strickland does. You can say you're in good shape. I've bragged about how good my cardio is. I don't get tired in fights. I get tired sparring Sean. I can go days and days without a breath, and I get tired sparring Sean. DDP will be in good shape, but he will not be prepared for what Sean is going to be able to do to him.
You brought up the power. I think that's something that's very important in this fight. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but I want to ask you this. As far as Dricus Du Plessis, right? Were you impressed with what he did in the Robert Whittaker fight? Because I feel like before he ran through Robert Whittaker, you know, people knew Du Plessis was good, but he's been elevated to a whole nother level now in the eyes of most fans, experts, you know, you name it, right? You know, were you impressed by that Robert Whittaker fight? Did that elevate him in your eyes as well?
No, and it sounds like I'm hating on him, and I'm really not. But if you look at his record, he's not beaten anyone except Robert Whittaker. And this is a Robert Whittaker who has been in only fighting the top tier fighters for caught and beat an older Robert Whittaker. And Whittaker looked fine, but age will get us all. You will be a little slower. You will react a little less. You just won't be the same fighter.
So let me ask you this, you know, Dricus, I don't think he's going to take a step back in this fight. He's probably going to get right into Sean's face. That's sort of what he does, right? It's interesting because Sean does a lot of the same, right? Like he walked down Adesanya the entire fight. Like, how do you think that's going to mesh? Once that fight starts, who do you think will be on the back foot?
Assuming DDP doesn't land that big shot in round one, which I don't think he will, but that's his hope. Come out hard and fast. If ever I were to fight Sean, it'd be all or nothing round one. That's how I would fight Sean. By the end of round one, round two, DDP will be walking backwards. He won't be able to keep up with Sean. Sean will get that step point. And what Sean does is it's not that he walks down people. He just takes away the space. If somebody takes half a step backwards, Sean follows half a step forward and then doesn't give back that step. That's what Sean does. And DDP's not ready for it. DDP's going to get in there and he's going to get tired.
Yeah, that's a great point, by the way, about him walking people, but not walking people back necessarily. And that's why I like to bring on guys like you know, people who have actually been in there with the experience, you know, gives us, you know, a new perspective. One thing about Adesanya, though, is that, you know, in regards to the Strickland fight against Adesanya that he had previously, right, where he won the title, is Adesanya, a lot of times, he's not really going to commence the action, right? He likes to sit on the outside, pick you apart. Dricus feels like a more dangerous matchup for Sean, even beyond Adesanya, in my opinion, just because regardless of whether, you know, Du Plessis is better than Adesanya or not, he's going to be engaging more. He's going to be more aggressive, at least I think, right? Do you think that it's a more dangerous fight for Sean because of that?
I think it's more dangerous for Sean than the Izzy fight. I thought Izzy was going to be an easy fight for Sean.
Really?
I was right. Nobody.
So you were in the minority on that one.
I thought it was going to be an easy fight. I made so much money betting on that fight.
I was going to ask you. I hope you did. You put some bets and cashed out.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He was such a big underdog. I bet a lot on him for that one. And I was very. Kickers have a hard time with people with pressure because it's hard to kick when you're walking backwards. Sean was going to get him walking backwards. It's hard to kick. So then you're kickboxing a kickboxer who can't kick anymore. Or you're boxing a kickboxer who can't kick anymore. Du Plessis is going to be a little more dangerous because all of his fights have been underwhelming, except for his one fight against Robert Whittaker. He beat Brunson, which is great.
He's kind of just arrived on the scene in terms of how people think of him, right?
There's a lot less footage on him. There's a lot less everything on him. You can't find his habits quite as easily as you could somebody else. Sean is kind of the opposite. You know all of his habits. Nobody can figure out how to stop it. I guess Pereira did. And I thought Cannonier fight was that fight was terrible, both sides. I thought Sean won, but it was such a bad fight, I didn't really care.
Not just because I'm talking to you. I did score that one for Sean. I thought he won that one, the Cannonier fight. Close fight, but I thought he won.
Yeah, and it was such a boring fight. If it wasn't my buddy fighting, I wouldn't have finished watching it. I would have turned it off. But it's my buddy, so I'm gonna watch it. Uh,
Yeah, and in
uh,
regards to the
D-
power, right? No, go ahead.
yeah, I was saying DDP just doesn't have the footage on him. You can't quite put together what he's gonna do next.
Do you think that could be dangerous though? Somebody with not much, not as much
He-
footage.
that,
As a fighter,
that's
in the mind of a fighter, is that an advantage or a disadvantage to you?
if I'm fighting a guy I can't find any footage on, it's much harder. You don't know what he's gonna do. You don't know what his habits are.
Okay.
Sean never watches footage. He doesn't watch DDP. If he's ever seen DDP fight, it would surprise me. I don't think he's done.
I think the only time he saw
Coaches have,
DDP
his
fight
coaches-
was on Octagon side in the last pay-per-view, right?
yeah,
I think that's the only time he's ever seen him fight up close.
probably. And so Sean's gonna go in there and Sean's gonna do Sean. His coaches have watched his footage. His coaches know what to tell Sean to do, and Sean will ignore all of it and do what he wants to do.
Speaking of something else that could potentially be an advantage for Du Plessis in this fight, something you brought up earlier is that power advantage, right? I mean, Sean likes to he'll land a lot of volume on you, right? But he's not necessarily known as like a one-punch knockout artist, right? Do you think that the power of Du Plessis could be potentially dangerous? Because I know you said that it was perhaps the only factor in the fight, or one of the the only thing you would give to Du Plessis over Sean. So that's probably one of the big things he would have to look out for, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Nobody's
Plessis
susceptible
has
to a big hit, right? I mean, we saw the Pereira fight. Sean can have great head movement and not get hit, but if a good one lands, it's going to land, right? No matter who you are.
Yeah, and Du Plessis isn't Pereira. I mean, he's not that style of fighter. Yeah, and honestly, if Sean and Pereira were to fight again, I think Sean would win. I would put my money in. Sean's figured him out. But anyways, it's going to be in the moment. Du Plessis isn't a brilliant striker. He's good. He's deserving of this title shot. He's done incredible things. I'm looking forward to the fight, but he's not this brilliant striker that Pereira was.
Sure. And look, somebody again who's trained with Sean Strickland, curious to know, we haven't seen much of him on the ground in the UFC. I think he is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, not 100% sure on that, right? But, if the fight were to get on the ground.
Yeah, Strickland's a second-degree black belt.
Okay.
He doesn't care about it because nobody wants to watch it.
Like you would know, right?
The boring part of it, you lose a lot of interest. And anyone that says they don't, they're lying. They all do. And Sean isn't that kind of fighter. Sean wants to stand up. Now, Sean's ground game is incredible. He has rolled with and maybe not beaten some of the best in the world, but he has rolled with and competed with some of the best in the world in jiu-jitsu. He has that ability. What he is better at than jiu-jitsu, though, is wrestling. Years ago, Joe Figiali, he's the D2 national champion, came into our gym. And Joe had his way with Sean wrestling. This is 6-7 years ago. Had his way with Sean. And Sean said, well, that's not going to happen again. And so he just went with Sean went with Joe every day. And then Sean started beating Joe. So he went to on national. He found wrestlers in the country and worked with them exclusively. And then eventually started beating them at wrestling. Sean's wrestling is far better. He may not be the next Bo Nichols, but Sean's wrestling is far better than almost everybody else in the division.
So if this fight were to get to the ground, are you confident that he'd do well against Du Plessis, perhaps even win a lot of those exchanges?
Oh, he would win all of them. If he gets taken down, he'll get back up. There won't be much damage on the ground. If Sean gets a takedown or gets on top, it'll be what Sean always does. He kind of jiu-jitsus the same way he strikes. A lot of volume. Just hit him, punch him, punish him. He won't take the back. He'll stay on top so he can hit him. Sean's the guy. Sean taught me this. He doesn't go for rear naked chokes. Even if he has it, he'll let go of the choke and he'll go for a crossface because they hurt worse. And then that's what Sean will do. Sean will try and punish Du Plessis. And TKO him. He won't go for a submission.
I guess that's more fitting to his personality, isn't it?
100%. And I've taken it to heart. That is how I do jiu-jitsu. I don't care if I get the submission. I'm going to make your life miserable for as long as I'm rolling again.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, in my opinion, I think this fight is an absolute, bloodbath of a fight. I think these guys are going to go at it. I think we're going to see a lot of exchanges. But, do you have a final prediction for this fight and how it plays out?
Yeah, I'm going to say Sean gets the finish this time. DDP truly is not ready for the cardio that Sean's bringing. He's going to start get walked down. He's going to start getting hit, and come the end of round 4, early round 5, it'll be end of round 4 or the end of round 5 is when Sean's going to get the finish. But I'm even putting money on TKO.
Absolutely. Well, Sam, nonetheless, as always, we do appreciate the time, man. Thank you for bringing us some of that insight into this main event. UFC 297, January 20th, Sean Strickland versus Dricus Du Plessis. It's going to be a fun fight. And again, Sam, thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, you're so welcome, my friend. Thanks for having me on.
Take care.
Du Plessis dodges it. All right, so
he's still
I'm being
talking.
told that Strickland asks Gilbert Burns' son to move. Oh, and then,
wow. Oh, my goodness.
oh, wow.
Out of nowhere.